tonight we're going to be talking about each one bring one stories of success. And our district membership team really wanted to take it to a new level within our district. So we started planning back in the springtime about how we could really leverage the each one bring one concept and give our clubs, tools to be able to grow within their own communities and have a lot of fun doing it on the way. So first, we're going to use the reaction feature to just let us know how you're feeling tonight. The reaction feature is kind of down at the bottom, and that's how you can add a thumbs up or a party. All right, lots of people are ready to contribute. Well, thanks and welcome on a Monday night. So really quick, a few nerdy things before I turn it over to Matt for story time. We have excitingly, since July 1st, added 152 new members into our district, which is impressive. Our clubs are impressive. And to give you a little bit of context, this time, yeah, exactly. 10 cheers all around. And Hugo knows exactly how many new people we have because he personally sends a welcome note to every single new member. He handwrites them. So I'm sure he's like, yeah, Jenny, I know how many new members there are. But 152 is really cool. So for context, in the same time last year, we had added 67 new members. So we are certainly, we have some great momentum out of the gate this year. And the sad news of this is that we have seen 98 people leave our clubs this year from July 1st to today. But for context for that last year we had terminated 125 members at this same point. So I know sometimes it's discouraging to see that terminated number, but I do think that we have some momentum that we haven't had in a while. So I think that this is really exciting. And I think our clubs have something to be really, really proud of when we talk about what we've been doing and what clubs have been building across District 6690. So now that you kind of know the numbers, I always like to give everyone like the temperature of where we are. I'm gonna turn it over to Matt Weidman from the Rotary Club of Lancaster. He's past president, and he had a lot of success as president of his club, growing his club really exponentially. And I'm gonna let him talk about each one bring one, kind of where we are so far, and share a couple of fun stories of success.
Well, you can see the statistics there on how we're doing as a district. It's pretty amazing. It's real exciting to see this. I received the emails from each club that tell me how many people were invited to their club and by whom, and then we award out that $70 gift card or donation, once a month to one of those people that brought a guest. But as you see these things pour in each month, it is so exciting. And you can see we've had 211 participating members, 31 participating clubs. And then you have, we've already awarded out 3 of the donations to various charities with more on the way. And then all of this cross-pollination, which is a neat word I hadn't ever heard of in social media before, but I love it. These have been charities that aren't Rotary charities. And so as we share that they've been selected, the charity's been selected by that particular member for the donation, then all of their followers, it gets pushed out to all their followers and they get to hear about Rotary and the good stuff we're doing too. I'd like to go to Marietta first. And so we put this up front and center because Terry, who's in the picture on the right there, far right, Terry is their leader and has led them to great success this year with 43 guests being introduced, 29 participating members, and get this, 11 new members to date. So it's really been an amazing effort on their part. They've certainly been focusing on this. Terry, I've heard you speak a little bit about what is making you all so successful out there, but you almost have a philosophy on who you would like to invite to your meetings. And it isn't just the guy in the office next door, right? What is it that you guys are doing that's making you so successful?
Yeah, so we've had fun, and I'm actually going to update your slide already because you pulled your numbers too early. I actually added 2 more members today. We're up to 13 new members as of this afternoon. So we embraced this everyone bring one by, we had everybody programmed in our club that, as part of a process to get from a red badge to a blue badge, one of the things you had to do was invite a guest, and their mentality was always grabbing that person on the way out of their office and saying, hey, come with me to Rotary, I got to have a guest, right? So we asked them at the beginning of the year to completely change the way that they thought about that. We wanted the person who they go to the football game with on Saturday, the person that they go to the mall shopping with, the person that they do church projects with. Like, that's the one that we want you to bring with you to experience what we experience in our club. And that has gone overwhelmingly well, obviously. And even we actually recently had a fundraiser on Saturday night. MJ can speak to it because she was there, but we had 190 people in the room for a fundraiser with the concept that our Rotarians would bring a guest with them. And it was about a 50-50 split between members and guests of our members at our fundraiser even this weekend. The club has really jumped in. And the other thing that we do that I love is we engage them the second that they walk in the door. And hopefully when I say this, I don't offend anybody, but it's not like you're in a new community and you walked into a new church on a Sunday morning kind of engagement. It's more of a, hey, here's what we do. Here's who we are. Who are you? What do you do? And we also immediately engage them up front with what we are, what we're involved in, the amount of energy that we put into the community, the amount of energy that we put into the district. All of those things are discussed up front as a part of their orientation process before the member actually signs them into the club. So like all of the hard part is done way ahead of schedule so that by the time they get in the club, they're just ready to hit the ground running.
Terry, how many members did Marietta have at the beginning of your term?
At the beginning of my term, we had 92. We're plus 13. We're down 3. One moved out of the area. One passed away. And the other one took a different job location. They're still in the community, but they can't get all the way to our club for the meeting. So we referred them actually to a neighboring club.
You've converted of those guests into 11 new members. A lot of clubs are not having the same luck, their conversion ratio. I don't say luck. They haven't had the same success with their conversion ratio. What is your advice if you could sum it up for a club they got a lot of people coming, but not a lot of new members?
So it's the way that you're approaching, in my opinion, it'd be the way that you're approaching the invite, right? One of the questions that we had from another club was, hey, we aren't having that success of converting them over. Once they get in the door, they feel like something's a little different, and then the other thing is once they do sign up, they feel like they get lost because nobody pays attention to them, or they don't jump in on their own 2 feet to assign themselves into something. And to us, the way we look at that, that's a 100% commitment on the member that is bringing them into the club. That should be the person who's mentoring them. That should be the person who's engaging them prior to the meeting, after the meeting, checking in with them to make sure that they don't need anything. And after they do sign up, hey, I'm going to this project this week. Why don't you come with me and we'll go together, right? So I think a lot of it seems to be people bring the guest and then they get them to sign up and then they just feel like they're going to take off on their own, because a lot of Rotarians are very, I think, self-starters. They'll do their own thing because they're just going to jump in. But I think we don't take enough time to recognize that sometimes that's not the case. People immediately, when they don't have that safety net of the person who brought them in to be right next to them, they start to get a little skittish, right? So we encourage the member that brings them in to also sit at a different table each week with them and not go into their comfort zone of sitting with their little cronies that they sit with every week, day in and day out. Sit with a different group so these people can learn, the new members can learn new people. The only other thing that I would say is, and it's a cheesy cliche saying to say, but it's not the quantity of members, it's the quality of members. You have to selectively pick those ones that you think. And I think it's also on your boards to look into the community. Who's missing from your group? Who do you need to add into the group? And who do we need to approach as well?
I was going to ask Terry, if you could answer one more question. Is there a particular age range of new members in your club? Is it across the board, or is it a particular age range?
Yeah, so if you actually look in DACDB at our metrics, that's the other thing that our board talked about at our most recent board meeting. I love the makeup of our club right now because it's balanced, I feel, just the right way. There's a heavy load on 0 to 30. There's an even number on 30 to 40, 40 to 50, 50 to 60, 60 to 70, and then 70 above. There's the same load that there is all the way at the front on the 0 to 30s, right? If you look at it even deeper, we pay attention to the years of service that they're with us. And if we look at that, we're like at 22, 11, 11, 11, 11, 22. Same balance. You've got a front load heavy, a back load heavy, because you have to expect that you're just going to have that attrition, right? You're going to have people that move out of the area, change jobs, can't meet the same way that they could. So we try to load heavy on the front and then let it work its way down. So I think no is the answer to your question. We don't have a specific age range because we're seeing a lot of young in our community. We're seeing a lot of new people in our community, and age holds no boundaries, right? So you know, to me, anybody who wants to be a good Rotarian, there should be nothing stopping them from becoming a good Rotarian, and it's our job to make sure they can have that opportunity.
I was at your event on Saturday. It was fabulous. You raised a lot of money for all the good work that you do, but you also seem to have been very intentional about encouraging your members to invite non-Rotary members to the event. I mean, I don't know what your distribution was, but it seemed like you had quite a few people who were not currently in Rotary. So you had a great opportunity to show your mission. You had an opportunity to show them a great time, and also to raise some money for the work that you do. How did you go about that piece?
So there were two things that we thought about on that one, right? So when I started developing the slideshow that I wanted to run that night, I started putting all these pictures and all these things up on the screen and videos so that when people were in the room, they could see us and see what we did. The problem is by the time I got done with the slideshow, if I ran a slide every 10 seconds, they never would have seen the entire slideshow in a 4-hour fundraiser, right? So it was like, why am I doing this? So we scaled back our slides to just the text-based informational type slides. And what we encouraged the Rotarians, we had all the Rotarians identify themselves in the room. And when we looked at it, they were evenly split across every table. So at every table, you had Rotarians and non-Rotarians. And the thing that we spoke to the Rotarians about that night in the event was the thing that we do the worst at is telling our story. Tell people about what we do. Don't be shy about it. Don't be embarrassed about it. Be proud of what we do in the community, the district, and the world. So if any of you see anything on the screen that doesn't make sense, or you want to know more about, ask the Rotarian at your table about it. And if they don't know, have them ask the Rotarian at the table next to them. So that was one of the things I think that we helped encourage a little bit of that. To answer your other question, it was about a 60-40 split between Rotarians and non-Rotarians. So we did have a decent group in the room that way as well.
That's fantastic. Great job, Terry. I wanted to talk just a little bit about Newark. I just want you to understand that this result is, we're having similar results across the district. Newark's a great example. There were two people from the Newark Club I really hoped could be here, but they both had a prior commitment. But they're doing great things as well. And you can see, 38 guests and introduced to Rotary, 31 participating members. So great level of participation by their club. And then 5 new members to date. And then Anna's here from the Rotary Club of Delaware. And Anna, you guys have had great success, a lot of participation, 19 new guests, 16 participating members from your club. Would you mind sharing just a little bit of what your secret to success has been?
Well, thank you, Matt. I think you're looking at one of the pictures of why we were successful. I think our programs, we've been trying to do some really high quality programs, and having Gene Smith from Ohio State was about as good as you could get. We've had people from the zoo. I think a lot of it is where we're located. So we have the ability to get pretty good programs. We have a really funny sergeant at arms. If you ever, it's one of our judges from the county. So the program itself is just very engaging. I mean, the hour just goes by so fast. And we have some young people coming up through the board, and they just have a lot of new ideas of membership and programs. We had a board meeting today, and we were talking about just having a program where we talk strategic with the club members just to see what they're looking for. So there would be no speaker or anything like that. And, you know, just try to poll the club, because we want to hear what they're looking for. We've also started the Peace Builders. We have a Peace Builders committee, and we have a ton of service projects. So there's something for everybody. But, you know, again, we have like, maybe we had one new member submit their application today, and I know I have 2 more coming, but I've also lost 3. So we're kind of at a net 0.
Yeah, you're on the right track though, with the numbers. But so you brought up something I think is really interesting, and I'd be curious. You know, I have attended club meetings before where, you know, a good part of the meeting, at least a third, is minutes, and then we'd have a treasurer's report, and it's really goes by kind of an old school agenda. But your meetings sound a lot different. They sound like you're doing some things. You have great speakers. Do you handle most of your business at like a board meeting on the side?
Yes, so board meets once a month. Our regular meetings, we spend about 15 minutes on some club business, so club announcements and that kind of thing, makeups, those kind of things. And then, you know, Sergeant of Arms takes up about 5 or 10 minutes, and then the speaker's about 25 minutes. So yeah, the business of the club is held generally at the board level.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. It really does. With the meeting aspect, we've really focused on our speakers too. And one of the things that we've noticed is usually if a person is of the caliber that you're inviting them to come speak to the club, they're usually probably going to be a good fit to even consider for membership, or at least bringing it up with them if they seem to enjoy being there and that type of thing. And so one of the things we've done is if it feels that way, you know, at least the president will go up to the person and say, hey, you know, it's really been great having you here. If you have any interest in the club, you can come back next week too. You don't even have to speak, you know. Anybody else? You guys, from the people that are here, do you typically have the older style meeting where you're going through, you know, old business, new business, treasurer's report, secretary's report? Or do you have more like what Ian is talking about, where the meeting flows with a speaker and you do some fun finds and collections and that type of thing?
We don't, at Columbus, we have never done that. I've been a member 31 years, and we have announcements of committee activities, committee meetings. We have Sergeant at Arms, we have fun things, we have our speaker, and sometimes spotlights. So we haven't done them lately, but spotlights on committees where committee heads get up and talk about what they're doing. That's really very valuable. But we never have had minutes or anything else. That's purely board work.
I will say too, you know, one of the things I've noticed as a kind of recurring success tactic is engaging these folks that come and making sure that they know they are, you know, that you really want them to come back, and kind of prearranging, you know, who's responsible for that's a good thing. And I know Terry mentioned that his club does that with putting the onus on the person that brought the potential new member. Our club, typically the president does a little extra reach out, like an email after, you know, the first few meetings that they attend, for example. Sometimes it's just emailing the 4-way test and saying, hey, this is what, you know, we try to live by, and you know, here's an infographic about it, or you know, fact sheet about the Rotary Foundation. We've done that before, explaining things that are different, like finds and collections or Peace Builder. You know, Terry brought up too, you know, kind of explaining the why right away. You know, well, here's what we are, here's who we are. And he talked about it at the, both when the new member comes to the meeting, or the potential member, but also even at his fundraiser. And it sounds like they spent a lot of time really explaining, why would you even want to be a Rotarian? Like, what do we do? You know, so that was, I thought, pretty useful. If you ever want to see another good thing I've noticed is Clintonville, for example, has this infographic on their webpage. and they put together, it's just, you can look at it, it's got pictures, and it just hits, 6 or 7 key statistics on things they've done for the year. It's just really impressive. And I think that if you can make something quick like that, that's pretty useful too. So they've done a good job with that. Let's go to the next slide, Jenny. Thank you. And kind of rounding into that, I think you all probably seen this tool before, but this is used by members to go through, and they can jot down into one box their most meaningful Rotary experience, the benefits of Rotary in their life, describe in 10 words or less Rotary, and then thinking of the next year, what are you most excited about for Rotary? And then on the next page, you can see where you take that information and then you kind of create a strategy with it, with some talking points of using at least 1 point from each of the 4 boxes, write a quick note to invite somebody to Rotary, or a service project or social event. And then identify 5 people in your life that may not know about your Rotary experience, and then list 5 times in your regular routine where you could share about Rotary. And I think the usefulness of this is, it's a useful exercise anyways, but this could be good. We occasionally have meetings where there's a little extra time, or perhaps the speaker didn't show up or something happens. And this is a good thing to pull out because it's useful. It gets you thinking and gets you in the right mindset. What other things do you all have to add, or strategies from your own clubs that you've seen work?
We have the mentoring program, which is working out pretty well. I think we've implemented that probably a couple of years ago. And of course, they have a sponsor that kind of stays with the new member, but the mentoring program is kind of maybe one step above that. And there's several things that we encourage the mentor to do. And I think our president last year, Debbie Johnson, said the vice president coming in will put them in charge of the mentoring program, and lining up for every new member, they would have a mentor in the club. And you try to line them up so the personalities kind of match a little bit, maybe something in common where they'd click pretty quick. But things like, sitting with them, at the luncheon, inviting them and or their spouse out to dinner sometime, escorting them to some events, just getting them to participate. So it's working out pretty well right now, and it's been pretty successful.
Milt, that's really neat. I'm glad you brought that up. We've always kind of talked and tried to talk about finding some way to kind of embrace our new members, but something structured like that sounds real nice.
In my club, we actually do something called Rotary Pals, which buddies up a seasoned Rotarian with a new Rotarian. And we try really hard to do something I call making smart introductions, not just kind of randomly picking, but really looking for 2 people, who can support one another and teach one another, because it's a 2-way experience when you're doing that kind of mentoring and that kind of, what we call Rotary Pals. But there's like a new member scavenger hunt where it's, attend a service event, plan a project, so it's all these kind of different things. That's a little less formal than kind of a lot of clubs I know do red badge programs and things. Ours is a little less formal than that and has that Rotary Pals concept. And actually there's a sample of that on the district website. If you follow the link that's on your screen now, there are a couple tools that you can take them and edit them and adapt them.
Does anyone have any strategies for how they celebrate the wins in membership? Like, how do you celebrate if you have somebody just going above and beyond, they're bringing a new member, or new potential member, a guest to, every meeting, or maybe they've done a couple in a quarter even. Mike, he came up with the idea of doing a raffle just like the district, but at the club level. And so Mike will award a $10 Starbucks card or something small to one of the members per quarter just within the club, and makes a big deal out of it, in front of all the other members, and, which helps remind them, what they could, they could be bringing people to, but it's been pretty successful, and it draws attention to the person that's doing a good job, which is always a nice thing.
You reminded me that we did something like that off and on. We'd have like when they had a Sweet 16 basketball tournament, we'd have a little tournament, we'd have teams in the club, and everybody was assigned to a team, and the team with the most either new members or guests would win the prize. We just select that. We also have drawings for every time you bring a guest, you get entered in a drawing and you get to win something. So yeah, now that you mentioned it, we've done something like that too.
I was just going to say that I think what you've hit upon, and especially in a volunteer service organization, you cannot recognize good deeds enough. And I think in all, whether it be membership or any other area, I think we've got to keep that in mind. That you know, people who go a little bit above and beyond in their in what they do for the club, etc. We really have to be conscious, you know, consciously recognize them on a regular basis, because, you know, we don't pay them. We don't pay anybody in Rotary. So,
Yeah.
So the way that we honor them is through recognition.
Well, and you know, yeah, I agree. And when you see these things work and you feel that momentum that Jenny was talking about in the beginning, it really catches on. And this thing can drive itself once you get the engine started, but you got to get that momentum going. And it sounds like Anna's got that going. Terry has that going. There's a lot of clubs that really, they're starting to turn the corner and really get things moving.
Thank you, Bryce. I was just going to add, so our club, we have a very, as you imagine, a very energetic club, and we have a lot of actually presenters will come in and just basically say, wow, I can't believe that you guys have this much energy. You know, this early in the morning, I was prepared to, you know, present to a bunch of perhaps sleeping individuals, but you know, that's just one thing, that if you can get the energy in the room where it's exciting and fun and people are having good exchanges and so forth, and that has a lot to do with it. I know that our current president, Dylan Perry, has basically said that he joined our club originally because of the woohoo. So it makes my heart swell, but you know, so there is something to having a lot of energy and fun, and we've actually had quite a few new members as well. Our Mary Hildebrand, past president Mary Hildebrand, said that she would be the onboarding person for membership, and she is like exhausted. We've had like 15 individuals, you know, on onboarding. She thought, oh, this is only going to be like a couple of individuals, but it's been like back to back. So, but I also wanted to add basically same thing as what Hugo had mentioned, and Matt, what you mentioned. The Byesville Club is also doing, recognizing those club members that are bringing in members to a meeting. And Lisa, President Lisa, is doing a drawing where they're doing a gift card from a local business within the community. So I just wanted to share that. So,
one strategy that I've seen kind of recur, and I wanted to bring it up, is who do you invite? And one of the things he said was, well, who's missing? Who did we used to have that we no longer have here anymore? You know, for example, our club had a pastor in the club that handled the Thanksgiving prayer every year. We're like, well, who in the community could we invite that is a pastor? You know, and then, you know, you just go down the line. Well, didn't we used to have the dean of the local college? Oh, yeah, we did. Well, you know, that person retired. Did we ever get the new dean? No, we didn't. So that person gets invited, and you kind of go through. It almost goes back to the old cogs of Rotary, where you could only have one attorney or one accountant or one whatever, you know. But if you go through and you even go down by the professions and you say, do we have anybody from that company? Do we have anybody from the hospital? You know, that type of thing. And I've seen that be pretty successful, just a real deliberate kind of discussion about, well, who's missing from the table.
I think you need to make it fun. And, you know, whatever that means in your club. In our club, I think a lot of times that means friendly competition. And, you know, during Gary Vaughn's year as district governor, our club was recognized for a program that we had using a Final Four theme and creating competition among the teams to bring in guests. It was really focused on guests, but of course we know that once you're thinking about someone as a guest, you're also thinking about that person as a potential member of your club. And because of the fun aspect of that, we all had silly team names that we adopted, and we were just getting started really when COVID hit and kind of brought that to a screeching halt, unfortunately. But the idea was really, really solid. And I think it just reinforces maybe that the 5-way test, you know, the last part there, is it fun? And, you know, with all the good work that we do, if we also make it fun, I think we have a great product to sell.
So we've been putting a lot of energy, especially into the first half of this Rotary year, on each one bring one, getting clubs excited, trying to, drum up that energy. But we also, the other side of this is retention, right? On how do we keep our current members, the folks who have been with us for a long time, how do we keep them engaged? And then when we bring in this new guest and we do all the right things, we engage them, we make the smart introductions, they join our club. How do we keep them coming back from more? How do we keep them as a part of our club? And so we don't have time to go into tons of this stuff, but I wanted to give a teaser for our December membership chat. It's one of those open roundtable styles, but the topic is actually going to be centered around retention, sharing ideas, supporting clubs on retention ideas. But I do want to share 2 tools. Some of you have been on these calls and you've heard me bragging about this tool. It's my probably favorite thing that Rotary has done membership wise, and that's the club planning assessment. That's that Qualtrics link I just dropped in the chat. I don't know if any of you have been on Rotary's website. As much as I love it, it's also a little intimidating because there is a lot. It's like this never-ending sea of Rotary stuff. So I really like the planning assistant tool because you can enter in and it kind of prioritizes based on the information you put in about your club, and then it'll give you, 2 or 3 goals or strategies, and it just makes it a little more bite-sized. So I really appreciate that tool. If you want to do something really fun at your next board meeting, ask all the members of your board to complete it separately and see how much you line up to pick out some of those priorities. Another tool that I'm going to drop in the chat box, hopefully it's a file, and Rotary actually has a new retention assessment. And this is somewhat new. It's actually a set of instructions. It's uploading into the chat right now. And it actually tells you how to log into My Rotary and which reports to run in order to be able to analyze retention within your own club. So I really like that tool. If you want to try that out and you have any trouble, please let me know. I'm happy to help pull some of that together for you. But I wanted to give a little bit of a teaser for our December membership chat, which conveniently, I have a QR code if you want to whip out your smartphone and register right now and just go ahead and take care of it. And it's an open chat, so we're inviting everyone to come and just, we are going to try and keep the talk centered around retention, but sharing ideas, sharing problems. If you're, struggling with a few things and you want to come and have some group think, that this is a great session to come to. It's on a Tuesday morning. So wanted to share Matt and I's contact information. Thanks everyone for joining. Please join us again in December. We would love to have you as we kind of talk retention and swap ideas.